Good coffee. Thanks, Javon. Notes of, pomegranate. Actually, no, I'm just kidding. I'm actually kind of bad at tasting those. So, but the thing is, there's a lot of stigma that goes with being into the coffee world. The snobbery that goes with it. That's not what this coffee tasting is about. Okay, this coffee tasting is about learning how to use your sense of taste as a tool for developing and growing in the coffee world, right? It's probably the single most important thing to develop as a barista, or especially if you're in charge of the coffee part of a cafe. There's so many things that tasting will tell you. And so we're going to be exploring some of the we're going to try to go beyond just tasting a coffee and being like, oh, this is good, I like it, or oh, this is bad, I don't like it. We're going to try to go beyond that and try to break it down a little further and look into areas of aroma, sweetness, body, finish, and acidity. Acidity is a really big one in the coffee world. I'll spend definitely some time focusing on that. In front of you, you notice your coffee bowls. They're labeled A through D. And this bowl right here, the empty one, you're going to just put some water in it. It's going to be the thing you rinse your spoon off with. So the water in front of you, you can use to fill that, and also to cleanse your palate in between tastings, if you so desire. And then in front of that, you will have a sheet of paper like this. And I actually have a lot more of these somewhere. Now, where did I put them? Is there a big stack of these papers back there? Great. If Phil, you want to start distributing to those people who are sitting down, one of the things we would like to do here is, if everybody else, I'm hoping that there's a bunch of coffee brewed back there, that you guys can get a little bit of coffee of two separate kinds in cups, so you can participate in at least the comparative tasting test. Ooh, don't want to slosh that as well. So I'll probably start, I would say those in the back there, you all can start slowly getting cups filled. Javon, is Javon back there? Where's Javon at? Okay.
Can you hear Nevin?
That's a great question.
Yeah, just raise your voice. Act like you're talking
to the person. Can you hear me, Franklin? Great. Okay. So, the thing we're going to be using primarily today here is a thing called coffee cupping. And if you're not familiar with coffee cupping, it's the standard way of tasting coffee in the coffee industry. So all you need for coffee cupping is a spoon and a bowl and coffee and hot water. Very simple method. You can do it anywhere. And coffee roasters do it a lot. There's some people here who have done this a whole lot more than me. I've only done this like a handful of times in my life. So we're all going to be learning together here.
How many of you have done coffee cupping?
Yeah, great question.
1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5,
Cool. Ah, got one over here. Awesome. Okay. So the other thing you're going to need is a timer. If you have a phone on you, we're going to need to time it for 4 minutes. So you're going to want to get that ready. All right, there's Javon. Great. So those of you who are sitting on chairs, I suggest kind of starting in the back. Just start getting things of coffee. Actually, I'm rethinking this. Could I get some volunteers to help serve some coffee and just start bringing 2 cups of coffee? I see Josh is willing, Franklin. Got some more over there. Tirza, great. If I could get another 3 more, possibly. Tony, you can head on back. Chad, and I'm forgetting your name. What's your name again? Alvin. Yes, thank you. I think that'll do it. That's just for the people in chairs, correct. That way you can do some comparative tasting as well.
Is there any more papers that anybody sitting in the aisle that would like to try?
All right. Does anyone not have a timer ready? Raise your hand if you do not have a timer ready. For those of you doing the coffee cupping. Okay. So here's the process. Actually, you know what? I don't have a timer ready.
I can give you one.
Oh, I got it. Let me just...
Also, a good thing to do is smell just the ground coffee.
Yeah.
And if you think it smells like something, you can just write that down.
Yeah.
And
It's like,
just take a whiff of it and notice the difference in how they smell. 'Cause some smell very different than
yeah.
the other.
Should we mark the 2 different signs, or does that not
You'll
matter?
smell it later.
Just mark it with like the just initial it. Yeah. Okay. So here's how it's going to work. You're going to pass the this air pot, the one that you have on your table, down to the end closest to the wall. We're going to start there first. And then Wesley's going to show you the method here for getting the first one started. So feel free to watch him. You do not need to do it with him. So we're just gonna get ours started here.
Yeah. So what you can do is start your
timer,
and then just fill it up all the way to the top.
all the way to the top, almost overflowing.
Timer started. About like so.
Yep.
And then you just go right to the next one.
Move straight to the next one.
Fill it right up.
Should they get started?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've got the idea, get started and start passing it down the line. All right. Does anybody have any questions for me at this point about the process?
Should we
Okay. No.
Not yet.
Do not stir it yet.
As you're pouring it, if you can kind of hit the dry spots, it's kind of a challenge.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's your timer at there, Wes?
2 minutes and 36
2 minutes?
seconds.
Okay. So I have a little bit of time to talk here. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the method we're doing here. In your bowls, you have 12 grams of coffee, and we're doing 200 grams of water. And because these are coffee cupping bowls, you can just fill it to the top, and it's the right amount. If you're doing it, you can do this with any kind of cup. It's just 6 grams of coffee to 100 grams of water, and you can scale this any direction. If you have any questions about coffee cupping in the future, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to give you more information on that.
Talk a bit louder, Nevin.
Okay.
Thank you. I know you got a big voice.
Any more back here?
Okay. So then, once your timer runs out, what you're going to do is you're going to take 1 spoon and you're going to stir your coffee like forward, backwards, and again 3 times.
Yep.
That's the correct way. It's not a big deal if you forget and you do a little more than that. It's not going to mess it up. This is a very forgiving method. You got 4 minutes?
So you
Okay.
go get your spoon.
Get your nose down
Oh
there.
yeah, because once you hit it,
There's a nice release of
Oh, yeah.
aroma.
and that's third time. And then as you do that, the grounds will sink right to the
Yep.
bottom. Give your spoon a little rinse, and then just go straight to the next one and do it to the next one.
Wes,
Oh,
can you
yeah.
repeat that?
There we go.
As soon as you're done stirring the first one, move straight to the next one, stir the next one
Yep.
down the line.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Nevin. We gotta hear that level of sound. Get up
Okay. And if you smell something interesting and a word pops into your brain, feel free to write it down. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. Don't try to force one.
And then once you're done, the grounds will sink to the bottom. And then the reason there's 2 spoons is you take both spoons and kind of go together and scrape the foam off the top. And then you put that foam into
In
your little plastic cup.
your
So you just take it,
disposable
go
plastic cup here. Yep.
Go this way, get the foam. You can see I have just like a whole spoonful of foam. I have a little more in there. That's all right. And I'll just take that off yet too. Because the foam is just kind of bitter and not pleasant. And then rinse your spoon off so you don't contaminate your next cup of coffee with a different kind of coffee.
Okay. Did all of you who are doing the coffee cupping hear that? Anybody unclear on the instructions? Back here, Madison. Okay. So after you stir it, which I need to get to now. Okay. So to repeat what Wesley said, you take your spoons like this and scrape it across the top of your cup like this to collect all the foam and stuff on the top. Like that.
Yep.
And then just transfer it into another vessel. We're using these today.
And then rinse your spoons off between the different kinds of coffee.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody have any questions? I can walk down and do a demonstration. Just get the foam off. Yep.
Okay. And don't taste them yet. If you did, it's fine. It's just they're too hot. We're going to wait a little
Couple minutes.
number of minutes here before we start tasting them.
Say we do this for ourselves, what's a good grind size to do it?
Pretty fine. Like if you're familiar with AeroPress, about what you do for an AeroPress.
Yeah. So don't stress about it because it's pretty forgiving as far as that goes. Mostly what you're looking for is consistency between your bowls.
Like a steamed ground the whole way across.
Yeah. Yeah, for the different coffees.
you kind of gave
Yeah.
some that. Kind of
Yeah.
repeat some of that and kind of contextualize it.
Sure. That's good. Yeah, so Bryant had a great question is like, who's using this method, right? So your average barista doesn't need to, right? This is a really great method for doing comparative testing. So if you want to try different coffee, or if you're getting a new coffee and you want to try to find the ways the roaster is tasting the coffee notes, this is the method that the roaster is going to be using. This method is mostly used by roasters, people who are going into countries sourcing coffee. Probably they're going to be using this method mostly. For a barista, this is a great way to teach yourself how to taste coffee. That's why we're using this method today. And now to go over some of the stuff on your paper here. What are we looking for once we actually do start tasting the coffee? We have this divided into 5 characteristics here that we're looking for. So the first one there, aroma, that one's pretty straightforward. I think you all know how to smell things. And what we're rating it on, the scale here, is quantity and quality, right? How much smells is coming off, and is it a good smell or a bad smell, or like, some parts are good, some parts aren't. So just kind of put a dot on there, kind of where you think. If you have any notes about it, feel free to write those down as you're doing that.
Even if they're bad notes. Like
Yeah.
If you could taste smells like rubber.
Yeah.
You can write that
Write-
down too.
Write that stuff down. Yeah. Just that's writing down what comes to mind is a great practice here. The other thing is, one of the things you're going to want to do as you're tasting this, especially as someone new like myself to the whole coffee tasting world, trying to grow in it, is overemphasizing the differences on paper. So you're like, you taste this coffee and it's like, yeah, I taste a bit of acidity there. And the next coffee, that's a little bit less. Like, really push them pretty far apart on the paper itself, just to help your brain start to get those, separate the categories. So then moving on to acidity. That one, acidity is a really important thing to know, to understand about coffee, especially as somebody who's like a barista who's pulling a lot of shots of espresso or dialing in an espresso machine. That's one of the key indicators of where your extraction level is at. An under-extracted coffee, that acidity is going to be more present, more noticeable, and is going to be more in your face. So being able to identify acidity is really important. In this coffee tasting, with it being immersion brewing, the acidity is going to be a lot less noticeable than in something like espresso or even like a percolation method. So you might have to hunt a little bit for those. One of the things you're looking for in acidity is it will taste brighter. You're going to taste it a little bit more on the sides of your tongue. Don't stress about that one, though. It takes a while to start to pinpoint where you're tasting things on your tongue. I personally find that one helpful. Some people are like, I'm tasting it everywhere on my tongue, which is okay because there are acidity sensors everywhere on your tongue. It's just they're most present on the sides of your tongue. It's also going to give a bit of like, if you have something really acidic, it's going to be a little bit like a lemon or a lime and make you want to pucker a little bit. These coffees probably will not do that to you today. So if it happens, that'll be interesting. Sweetness. we're not talking about a sugar-like sweetness. It's sweetness in coffee is a hard one to describe and learn how to identify. I'm still learning this one. Wesley, do you have some tips on identifying sweetness in coffee?
I don't know if I really do, but it's not sugary at all. It's not like a sugar. Like if you put any sugar in, it's a different kind of sweetness.
Yeah.
It's more of a chocolate sweetness, if that makes sense.
It's
like sometimes you'll have a dark chocolate and it's like, oh, there's sweetness in that. It's kind of like that kind of sweetness. It's not the kind of sweetness that'll make you go like, I don't know, not a candy sweetness at all.
Yeah.
Not going to find that very often.
After we're done with the main tasting, we could pull out some sugar packets and add a little bit to a coffee thing just to see how it changes that characteristic. I think what you're looking for is it's somewhat in how like acidity and other flavors are playing together.
Sometimes the coffee, like when you're roasting, the coffee will be a little bit caramelized. Some of the natural sugars, proteins, whatever in there, they'll be a little bit caramelized, and you'll kind of get some brown caramely sweetness.
Yeah. So this one, just a note, this is a tough one. So if you're struggling with this one, that's okay. Body is a little bit easier. That's talking about how does the coffee feel in your mouth? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel light? Is it more like, drinking milk? Or is it more like drinking juice? It's going to feel different in your mouth in the way it coats your tongue. So we'll look at that. The scale you have here is light to heavy. And then, of course, quality. How do you like the body? Finish is simply talking about how long does the flavor last in your mouth. So you'll taste it and you'll just sit there for a while and just keep track of how long it's taking for it to disappear. Another thing to pay attention to, not on this scale, but how does coffee flavor change over time in your mouth? That's another way to approach tasting coffee, is just pay attention to it over time. Final category here is flavor. This is sort of if you think of a coffee note in it, like blueberry or, grape soda. I saw that on a coffee bag once and I was a little skeptical, but it was actually surprisingly accurate. I think I would have called it Concord grape though, in my mind, but sure. On that note though, thinking about coffee notes, one of the things to understand about coffee notes is they're often pretty subjective to the roaster, and what they're more trying to do with coffee notes is to help you understand the coffee. So if you're seeing a notes like some fruity notes, one of the things to expect is higher acidity levels in the coffee. Or if you're seeing notes that can all kind of fall under the category of brown, like caramel, chocolate, those are probably going to be a more balanced, sweeter tasting coffee. Okay. I think our coffees are getting a little close to tasting. So a little bit about tasting here. Coffee cuppers do a thing of slurping. That's okay. Lean into it. I really want to hear 20 people slurping at once here as loudly as possible. What you're trying to do with the slurp is amplify the flavors in your mouth. What it's doing is it's adding a lot of air, and the volatile aromatic compounds in the coffee, you're trying to get those released and getting over your nose.
And spraying it all over your palate.
Yeah.
The coffee.
That. Okay. I did think of one more thing I wanted to say. Now I forgot it again. It had to do with tasting. What was it? Okay, I'll think of it later.
Yep. You can dip. Make sure your spoon's clean.
Mm-hmm.
Dip it in. Get a nice little spoonful. If it's too hot, it won't be very pleasant. But I think this is cool enough. Come up to your mouth and then just give it a nice slurp it off the spoon. Oh, yeah. That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There, and this coffee is kind of sweet. If you can kind of taste it, and now since you tasted it, if you're tasting A there, it's still the flavor's still in your mouth, and it's almost a sweet flavor is left. If you think about it, it's not. I don't have it for me anyway. I don't have a bitter flavor left in my mouth or astringent or anything. It's just kind of balanced and sort of sweet. So if you think of a coffee tasting note, you can write it down. Although we probably should go acidity. What next?
Yeah, you can be thinking about those characteristics right now, but what I would suggest right now for your first time tasting is just taste the coffee, kind of forget about the categories, and just start familiarizing yourself with the flavor. We'll come back in again and focus on each individual category at a time.
And a good thing to do is taste one coffee and then taste the next one right beside it. Because you're not going to necessarily taste what's similar, you're going to taste the differences.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And for those of you who are just following along, sitting here, hopefully you have 2 cups of coffee. You can be doing some of these same things. Feel free to try out the slurp. Okay. All right. Has everybody gone through and tasted all your coffees at least once here? All right. Is anybody still working on that? Okay. Let's go back in, and we're going to start chasing our first characteristic here. Acidity is what you're looking for. So coffee A. He's a professional.
Yeah, I can slurp.
I'm still learning this, Franklin. All right. Coffee B. Coffee C. Now that one's very different for acidity. You will notice that coffee C is kind of on the other end of the spectrum from the first two as far as acidity. And coffee D. Okay. Acidity is, it's going to be a brighter flavor, would be probably the way I would first describe it. It's, yeah, Wes, got some additional things to describe acidity. Sour.
Sort of, yeah. Like
It's
sour.
generally, though, yeah, sour is something you can use often in the coffee world when you're talking about acidity. If you can have a highly acidic coffee that's also not sour. Sour is often considered a negative side of acidity. So it's a useful word, and if you think it's sour, you're going to want to make a note of that. But often when coffee professionals are talking about coffee and they use a word like sour, it's going to be talking about a negative characteristic.
All these coffees aren't super acidic.
No.
The most acidic one is B.
Coffee B. Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
That's
coffee B is the most acidic. And if you taste it, you can taste the kind of bright, little bit of brightness compared to the other coffees. And that's some of the acidity coming through.
to me, the least acidic here would be coffee C.
Yeah, C and D are both.
C and D are both very low acidity. But if you want a good comparison between a more acidic coffee and a less acidic coffee, drink B and C right next to each other.
Or B and D.
B.
B is the most acidic one. You can kind of taste it's kind of bright, a little bit like.
So the stronger the flavor, the less acidic. Like why is it like so strong? But you said it's less acidic.
Yeah.
Why is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like sour.
So if you think of like a coffee note for the coffee B, it's almost like a dried fruit, like a craisin, or not a craisin, more kind of like a raisin or a prune. But that's what I think in my brain. So if you think, if you're familiar with,
to have acidic coffee, or is this a bad thing?
it's a preference. Most
That's a preference. Often it tends to go that your coffee nerds tend to like acidic coffee. And the people who just kind of like their cup of joe don't like acidity in their coffee. That's often partly because one of the things this is going with is roast level. So a lighter roast will often be more acidic than a darker roast. One of the things you're tasting here between B and C and B and D is that C and D are both dark roasts. Well, okay. I'll get into more details on that later. B is a medium roast. So it's going to, the acidity is more present because of that. So in the lighter roasts. And so one of the things that goes with that is the lighter roast the coffee, the more origin characteristics go with it. So the coffee nerds are often looking for individuality in coffee, right? How many different coffees, how many different things can you taste in coffee? So they often find a lot of joy in tasting differences in coffees, right? Whereas, the average Joe is going to often look for just coffee. That's painting in really broad strokes. There's exceptions to that all over the place. Myself, for the daily cup of coffee, medium roast, like this coffee is what I really like. Or like something, I'm often looking for something balanced between sweetness and body and acidity. Some things like that. Okay, yes.
The less you roast the coffee, the more acidic it's going to be.
Oftentimes, not all the time. Some coffees are more acidic. Like some coffees are grown real high altitude, and they're often like denser cherries.
Can you speak up, Wes?
Sometimes, depends where you get the coffee from, it'll be a more acidic coffee.
Yeah.
Than like Brazil coffee is often low acidity. Ethiopia coffee, often high acidity. And often people will roast Ethiopia coffee light because it's unique. It tastes often a common note you'll see with Ethiopia is blueberries. It's a common flavor. Or sometimes you'll get a coffee that's a light roast, like from Costa Rica or somewhere, and there will be even brighter notes. You might put even notes of pineapple or like.
Is acidity better usually, or is it worse?
Like for the coffee?
For the taste and
Sometimes for like a high acidic coffee, so like a Ethiopian coffee will often taste better as a light roast over maybe a Brazilian coffee, because sometimes if you do a light roast of a coffee that's not very dense or high quality, instead of getting a nice fruity sweetness, you're just going to get kind of grassy flavor. It'll taste like grass or hay, or it won't be as good. And so you'll often see there's really good coffees from Colombia that are light roast, but it depends where it's from. Often people will go medium or light. It's up to the roaster to decide.
Paula.
Is really good coffee relative, or is there like a specific? I don't know. Is there a coffee that a lot of people agree with that is the best coffee, or is it very like?
So there's a guy on the internet. Most of you probably heard him, James Hoffman. He did a massive coffee tasting, 10,000 people.
Actually, that's where we got this.
Yeah, I
this form from. I don't know if it was over COVID or not, but you could pay like $12. He didn't really make any money on it, and he shipped the coffee to everybody, 10,000 people, and then people would rate it. And the coffee that came back, the broadest, most accepted coffee that everybody liked, was a washed Ethiopian coffee. That would have been maybe a darker light roast, if that makes sense. Almost a medium roast, not quite. And that was the broadest, most accepted, because it was kind of the sweetest, just kind of most pleasant, not offensive coffee, not too sweet and not too black. So but with that, it wasn't a lot of people's favorite coffee.
Yeah.
It was just the average coffee that most people liked.
Accepted, yeah.
Like, so it wasn't a very controversial coffee.
Yeah. Because some people will taste a really light roast and be like, wow, this is so amazing. It tastes like blueberries and pineapples and good stuff. And some people will be like, oh, this is so sour. And they don't like sour in their coffee. And then they go and get the Starbucks and it's like, ooh, this is chocolatey and thick and heavy and yum. Another person will just taste it and be like, this is burnt. Like that. So it is kind of subjective to just tasting it. People have very different tastes on how they go. Yeah.
There is a scoring method though.
Yeah.
In answer to that question.
Yep.
So let's call it Q graders.
Yeah.
They'll learn how to score. So there is kind of a standard out there for coffee that's better and better the higher the score.
Yes. You'll see that.
Coffee is about a 80 to 85, but there are some that have turned into 90s.
Yeah.
Very rare.
Yep.
100% perfect. So there's the scoring.
And that score is added up of a bunch of different things. Like we'll sort through the beans and look at, does it have a little bit of mold or wormholes or what it has in it, and it's just addition of a bunch of different things. So score's really high on that. They roast it, taste it, on, and add the score up. So you could actually have a really high scoring coffee, and somebody won't like it actually, or you could have a high scoring, but most people probably will enjoy it because it would be pretty pleasant.
Franklin.
Yeah, how does a coffee shop select a roast since it can be subjective? Right?
That's a great question.
Well, it's often why a coffee shop will have more than one option.
Yeah.
They'll have a dark roast and a light roast option, or a dark roast and a medium, or all three. Sowers has usually all three there available. And some people will know, oh, I like the unique. They'll see, oh, that's an Ethiopia Yirgacheffe. I know I'm going to try it, see how good the roaster did on that. Or that kind of idea. So often a coffee shop will choose multiple coffees to try to get everybody's. Because often somebody that really loves their Starbucks straight drip coffee, they're going to go, if they're at Sowers, they're going to go Columbia dark roast. That's going to be bold. Fill their cup up with that.
Yeah. Another thing is if you have a coffee shop and you have only one kind of coffee, I would probably suggest a medium or a dark roast. Like for most of the coffee, unless if you're a really specialty coffee shop, you're going to want multiple options. But if you're sort of like Sowers, if Sowers had only one option, like we do three, but if we had only one option, it would be Columbia for us, or like our Sowers blend, which is a medium roast that we would offer. Because it's just going to match a lot. A lot of people are going to drink it and enjoy it. It might not be everybody's favorite coffee, but a lot of people are going to enjoy it. Now, for an espresso blend, what I would be looking for is a coffee that is really forgiving. That can, so something probably more like a medium-ish dark roast coffee, and one that you can have a pretty wide range that you can hit good coffee in. So like if you pull it for 20 seconds and if you pull it for 30 seconds, it's drinkable. Because when you have moving a lot of people through, you want to have that kind of headroom to work with in case your metrics start drifting during the day. So one thing I really like about Sowers blend, or Sowers espresso blend, is that I've discovered is it's really forgiving throughout the day for having good coffee, even as, we're getting different dosage amounts, different yields. There's some, you might have a light roast espresso blend that's incredible, like with notes of raspberry and all these really delicious acidity. But the problem is with those is they're really difficult to dial in because your space for good coffee out of it is really narrow. So you're going to have to be paying a lot of attention throughout the day to getting it just right. So you're probably going to want to look for something, a kind of a blend that's you can taste at various points, and you're like, this is still good. This is still good. This is still good. And until you hit a point where this is no longer good. And you want to know where that range is at. Okay. Well, we are getting pretty close. We got 2 minutes left here.
You should say what coffees we have available.
So, yeah.
Try it and know what it is.
So, I want to do one more thing yet before we hit that. We're going to chase for body next. So, just go back through. Don't spend a lot of time. One of the things you'll probably have noticed is as the coffee cools, acidity is a lot easier to identify. So As far as body, though, I don't know. C and D are pretty close for me.
Yeah.
Pretty close. I think
C
C,
is really heavy.
really heavy.
It's almost like it's almost the same texture as milk. Like, and then if you go do the B right after, it's much lighter. Lighter in your mouth.
So
It's just how it feels in your mouth. Because you can even have acidic coffee that
Heavier.
feels thick.
They tend to track with each other,
But they
though. So, okay. So you're probably curious about what kind of coffees you have in front of you. On your left here, coffee A is Parakia's Sower's Blend. So
You can write it down if you want.
if you wanna know that, that's their Sower's Blend. It's a medium roast. What kind of coffees do we have in that, Wes?
There's some Ethiopian, some Guatemalan, some Papua New Guinea. That's a really good coffee, and some Colombia.
What
And they're not even.
what tasting notes did you give this one?
Most. I don't even remember what I gave.
Was
I
it
don't remember what I gave it. It's
C?
like a little bit of chocolate and I don't remember.
Did you give it a nut flavor?
Walnuts.
Yeah.
There we go.
Walnut.
So yeah, that's what I put on there when I
Yeah.
taste it.
An effort to kind of describe what's going on.
Think of a walnut.
Yeah.
When you taste it, the first one. I think it tastes like walnut. That's pretty good.
This part of it's just for fun
Yeah.
to kind of help you
That is just for fun.
understand what's going in. It's somewhat subjective. I can, like, when I'm thinking of it, I can kind of see what he's talking about. You know, I would have not have picked that out the first time I would have tasted that. But after Wesley's much better at tasting notes in coffee than I am. But yeah, I can definitely see what you're talking about.
You can also get like these neat like posters or look at it online. Tasting wheel.
Yeah.
So it's like a bunch of the common flavors that are in coffee, and you can it'll have the brown flavors, caramel, chocolate, nuts, and fruit, and then go a little further and get a little more specific, like walnuts, peanuts, almonds, or in the chocolate, semi-sweet, dark chocolate, milk chocolate, brown sugar, vanilla, kind of that idea. And then you can kind of taste it, look at that, and be like, this is kind of a little bit nutty. Look at the nutty section there. Taste it again. Oh, it's kind of like a walnut. What in the world? And then you can.
Okay. Yeah. And coffee B. Moving on. This is the Honduras coffee from Parkia also. This is a medium roast as well.
A little bit lighter than the sour. Just a little bit. Not a lot.
And you're definitely higher in acidity than your Sower's Blend. Coffee C. This is a fun one. This is Folgers. Yeah. Folgers Classic Roast. They call it a medium roast, by the way. It's a dark roast, if you want to know. But this is a Folgers. So
Anybody's favorite?
yeah, I am curious. Don't be shy if it was. Yeah. Okay. So another thing you'll notice in this one is there's a pretty solid note of bitterness that comes along with this one. And I didn't talk about the category of bitterness much or at all yet today. That you're going to get more bitterness with a dark roasted coffee. You're also going to start getting it when you start over extracting your coffee. This is not necessarily over extracted, but you will get the same kind of characteristic. And it's this drying thing in the like the back of your mouth. You're gonna really taste it around like almost in the throat.
What does it mean over extracting?
Over extracting. So there's about 30% of the coffee bean can be taken out and is soluble in water. You're looking for about 20 to 22% of that to actually get out.
And if you get more than 20% it'll just taste gross.
Yeah.
Not gross,
Yeah.
bitter.
Yeah. That's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
It's actually really difficult to get more than like the 22%. Usually what happens is you extract some of the coffee way over 20% and some of the coffee way under. And so you get characteristics of both over extracted and under extracted. So it'll be acidic, sour, and bitter all at the same time. It's really confusing for your mouth to like understand what's going on. And it usually just comes across as, yeah. Okay, moving on to coffee D. Yeah, that's Colombia, a dark roast from Paraquia. Yeah. Okay.
And one of the tasty notes that is on the bag is toasted coconut. So taste it and think of that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for participating. I think we will start getting cleaned up here. Let's see. Yeah. I think the easiest way is just if you want to keep your coffee forms here, you're welcome to do that. And just grab your any trash you can, take that, throw it away, and we will take care of the rest. And you are dismissed.